Soraka is usually the really annoying spam healing champion that sits behind her teammates, being the real carry of the team. But I found a player who is actually playing Soraka mid lane in a carry role. This style is like playing against a brick wall. You cannot trade with Soraka, she wins the trade. You cannot kill or dive Soraka, she survives. And you cannot outscale her, she even out-heals your damage in fights. This is a really broken playstyle that almost anyone can pick up, even as an auto-filled mid laner, beating mid mains for some free LP. And this strategy even has one secret weird item that mid laners never buy, but this guy has found a crazy OP use for it. If you like new creative ideas like this, you'll love today's sponsor, Core. Core is a gaming platform that lets you create and play full games completely for free. You just click one download button and get over 20,000 player-made games to try out, all made with Unreal Engine. Right now, Core is having an event, the Multiverse Games, where you can compete for your country and win $25,000 in prizes. Every game you play, you collect medals. Like in this game, you collect them while trying to be the last one standing. I'll just push this guy off the edge, bye! This event ends on August 5th, so download right away to take part. The community-made levels in Core are limitless. There are multiplayer racing games, single-player story games, and even a game where you can raise bees, collecting pollen with them and making newbies. Look, the bee's even following me around. Maybe you want to make your own game. It's really simple. I thought I would remake a classic League of Legends game mode in their engine. That's right, it's fast, it's fun, it's Dominion. I pick a template to get the zone control mode, set up the map, add loads of stuff, add in some finishing touches, I published it. After just a couple hours, it's a full game, playable by everyone. My version of Dominion is a bit different, you know, it has guns, but maybe that was what it was missing the first time. Click the link in the video description and give Core a try. Our player today is named MindPro. He started playing League back in Season 3 with his best friend. Earlier that year he was injured playing football, so he actually had a good excuse to spend all his time playing League. With his experience playing sports, he was already quite a competitive person, so pushed himself right into rank to play against the best players he could find. I say the best players, but after 2,000 games that season, he was still playing in Silver, being quite a slow learner. Season 4, MindPro actually jumped right up to Diamond 5 in the first couple of months, maining Kha'Zix's jungle. At the same time, he also had what he calls the obligatory Riven top one-trick period that everyone goes through. For most of us, this Riven period lasts for one game, and then we realise the champion is not super easy or super rewarding and just quit. And he wasn't much different, to be honest. It was not until Season 6 that MindPro began to make more progress in solo queue. He joined a competitive team in Norway called Celestial Gaming in their second team, as he was not anywhere near high enough rank to be on their main one. However, he did get to talk to the first team, the players that were much higher rank than him, as well as a coach, starting to see the game from their perspective. With the team around him to learn from, motivating him to climb, he jumped back into solo queue and shot up to Diamond 1 with his Kha'Zix's jungle. When Talia was released, MindPro fell in love. It converted him into a mid laner, and he could not stop playing her. Looking back now at the situation is quite funny, because knowing what we know, he probably should have stayed in the jungle, so he could actually play the abomination that Riot turned Talia into. Continuing with his competitive team, he swapped to mid fully, and he needed to climb in solo queue to prove he deserved to take the mid lane spot. With Talia, he just peaked into Master, and he was accepted, before he fell back to Diamond 1 immediately. In Season 11, MindPro stopped playing competitive and cut down to a couple of games per day. This new mindset brought him to watching more Twitch streams instead of playing the game. Early on in the season, he tuned into LS's streams, listening to his thoughts on the new season and the new item combos that were OP. Inspiration struck him, Soraka mid lane. He was introduced to the idea by LS, and so took it into his own games to really develop the style. Instantly he was flamed and people thought it was an awful pick, so he decided to start fresh. A new account where he would perfect the style with his own strategy and create a style that meant early game was no problem. He could stay even every game, no chance of flaming. Mid game he'd try and be more useful than his opponent, winning fights to get his team ahead, and then late game using his incredible healing power to close out games with ease. MindPro hit Master with a 60% win rate, and from there his win rate actually increased above 60%. The games actually got easier, hitting 440 LP just over the Grandmaster cutoff. Soraka mid is not an original strategy. It was played years ago even in pro play, most notably by High in the NALCS in Cloud9. It was then picked up by LS a lot more recently as a power pick, and now adapted by MindPro into an even stronger original style. MindPro's version of Soraka mid is so good because it cannot lose lane. With just a few special strategies, MindPro has created an unbeatable champion. So in the games where it's your responsibility to help carry, you will never let your team down. This is how MindPro managed to climb with such a high win rate. Consistency is key in solo queue. But how is it possible that he can never lose lane? In lane at level 1, on, Soraka shows late, not letting enemies know her role until she has to. The first crazy thing about Soraka is that it can be played in 4 roles. Mine Pro is pretty much never autofilled, as he can go top lane, he can go mid, he can go AD carry, and he can go support, all with very similar builds and styles, so enemies will never be able to counterpick you. Starting the lane off, Soraka uses Q on the wave for CS. If the enemy is a melee laner, it's very easy to tag them at the same time. If they ever overextend through their minions, Soraka can land a simple Q slow on them, regenerating her health and getting an easy trade. Early on, Soraka's poke damage is much higher than anyone expects. This Riven lane is a perfect example. Riven is a melee laner, and as with any melee against Soraka, they will assume you can just jump on Soraka and win a trade. Riven tries this, and is auto-attacked, Q'd, and cannot even touch Soraka. Again, when she's going for minions, Soraka spams her auto-attacks, hits another Q, and Riven is super low health. Soraka even moves forwards while autoing to collect her Aery. This means she can use it again even sooner, letting the next auto-attack proc it once more, maximizing damage. Soraka with her Q always has the sustain advantage. Whenever enemies trade, she slows them in her wave. Letting her minions attack the enemy, it heals her and it gives her movement speed to let her kite and auto-attack for even longer. Soraka is balanced to be a support, so when she's getting solo lane XP and gold, champions are just not designed to get through this much regen. Especially mid lane mages are awful at this because they have such a limited mana pool. Soraka uses this power to force a freeze in front of her tower. If enemies do not respect this early power, they'll continue to lose trades, letting Soraka take her E at level 2 and set up some free ganks. As a champion who has no good CC, her silence needs to be good or she'll be a walking bag of gold. So her silence is instant on the ground, meaning as long as you hit it, enemies cannot react to it. Your goal at this point of the game is to manage the wave and complete your mana flow band. In lots of lanes, especially melee ones, Mine Pro only goes for poke with Q, knowing he can force the enemy out of lane. However, Soraka starts to care less about poke in some other lanes. For example, champions like Victor. If you're poking him a lot, it's not going to force him to do anything. He can just stay around and use laser at long range to keep wave clearing and farming. So instead, Mine Pro focuses more on the wave. In both cases, he tries to push out and go for a cheetah recall around level 4. And if you couldn't tell how much he likes LS, then here's even more proof of it. Auto-attack each of the backline minions and use Q on them twice to guarantee the wave will push out. At this point of the game, with good farming, he's able to base and purchase Dark Seal, refillable potion, and a control ward. The benefit of doing this strategy is that enemies are forced to answer the wave that you pushed in. Then, the enemies have to push another wave to get it to your tower, but you'll always get back in time before they can do it, meaning you're now laning against an enemy who has not based, has less items, and will be lower health and mana. If they stay, you can poke them down and try and kill them. If they base, then you use the wave clear you have on your Q to get the wave into their tower, making them miss the gold and XP, giving you a quick advantage already. But how can Soraka ever survive mid lane against assassins like Zed or Talon? Does any of this strategy even matter if she can't stay alive? In these high damage lanes, Soraka takes barrier and even buys Ionian boots first to guarantee the barrier is up every time the enemy mid laner goes in. With this, her poke damage, and her silence, she is able to freely scale without any threat. Against high CC enemy mids like Twisted Fate, Soraka instead takes Cleanse, again giving safety from their kill combos, as well as stopping their gank setup. But Soraka mid isn't all about being even. You can't win games if you're always even. At level 6, she can start to get ahead. Very similar to a champion like Shen, Soraka can now start to affect the map. 1v1, Mine Pro can control lane and pressure the enemy with poke. They can now also help with skirmishes in other lanes. In a level 6 3v3 bot lane fight, Soraka can heal up to 900 health for your teammates, which is like having a whole extra champion in the lane to help them win it, healing at just the right moment to bait the enemies and turn the fight. It's even good if you just save your bot lane from death, as that once again keeps the game even. Because of this ultimate, Soraka is even able to play against roaming champions or champions with global abilities. Like here, he's against a TF and a Nocturne who are ganking top lane. Soraka can ult to stop the dive, and then he runs up using his passive movement speed to get into heal, saving his teammate and stalling the fight out, turning it to get 2 more kills. Another big benefit of playing mid lane is that Soraka can join these early top and river fights that she couldn't if she was playing support. This is perfect if you combo with a carry jungler. You can double their health pool and silence the enemies, making it an unlosable 2v2. Just like an Ivern, your cooldowns and protection in these fights means enemies don't have enough damage to kill, because they're not balanced around having to deal with this healing. As with any healing champion, the longer the fight is, the easier it gets. In mid game, Soraka now has a new playstyle. To maximize your power and to win fights, you want to start grouping, as that's where supportive champions are strongest. Try to use this mid game power to propel a carry through a big fight, keeping them alive and empowering them, winning the fight and getting ahead. As a mid laner, your secondary goal apart from this is making sure all lanes are farmed and being taken, so you should be in a side lane collecting free farm whenever it's needed. You cannot be ignoring these waves and instantly grouping mid, otherwise you'll be sharing waves and you'll start to drag your team behind in XP and gold. Your items are very cheap in this build, so you will gain a big advantage every time you can be in a side lane. The worst thing that can happen here is being solo killed. In most matchups this is not possible thanks to your barrier, but some champions like Camille or Aurelia can fight you and even dive you. The solution to this is to play safe and get your team to engage a 4 vs 4. You can use your ult to help your team win it without even being there, and maybe even use silence to cancel a teleport if you need to. If Soraka is in a side lane not near a fight, then she has two options: to use her ultimate or to save it. Since you have a Dark Seal, many players use their ultimate whenever they can to get more stacks and start getting ahead. MinePro thinks that if you can use your ult to win a fight, then you should use it. Otherwise, if it's not vital, you can still use it if you don't need it anytime soon, if the cooldown is going to be back before the next big fight. Try and use it if you think you can get 2 assists or more. A single assist may not be worth it, or if there is a definite upcoming fight very soon, for example a dragon spawning, then you might need to save it for the big fight, especially if it's early game without much ability haste. Teamfights are where this build starts to pay off. Support Soraka is great at healing, but mid lane Soraka is supercharged with even more healing, and also lots of poke. Preparing for the fight, Soraka tries to land Qs on enemies to chip away at their health. In fights you have 2 things to do. Firstly, the obvious: use your W and ult healing to keep your team alive. With mid lane Soraka, full healing an ally from 1 HP to full health is common, which can nullify enemy burst damage completely. The second thing to do is to use your silence. This ability is mega undervalued in fights. When used correctly, Soraka Silence guarantees that an enemy is unable to contribute anything or escape the fight. This is especially important on dive champions who jump into your team. You don't have any hard CC and are not going to burst them down yourself. Soraka doesn't have the damage. But if you save your silence for when they jump in and you land it, the enemy's plan is disrupted, allowing your team to focus them down and kill the carry. Watching this work so well in teamfights is why I wanted to make this video. Mid lane is a farm heavy lane where all the scaling champions go to get as much gold as fast as they can, ready to dominate the game. But Soraka, with this one ability, removes that gold, removes the farm, and creates a useless silence target for your teammates to jump on. The rest of the laning phase up to this point did not matter. Soraka hit this instant, impossible to miss silence, and turned the enemy into a minion. Landing your Q in these fights is also very important. Each Q you hit gives you movement speed, and that transfers to anyone you heal as well, giving them movement speed. You're not just a heal bot, you can also do damage and help your team reposition. Late game, Soraka wants to keep grouping, but she can now also ensure her split pusher is the one who's going to win. If MinePro has any TP top laner on his team, he can let them go alone into a 1v1, pinging that his ult is available. If there is a 1v1 in that lane, his teammate gets a free win in the fight, thanks to the Soraka ultimate. A split pusher winning this 1v1 or even a 1v2 is a guaranteed inhibitor at least, maybe even a game win in solo queue. Now our player is from EU West, but there is one special item he builds that started to become popular on the Korean server. Since you're playing a supportive champion, the later you go in the game, the more you want to be grouped up, and thus the less farm you'll get. So players like MinePro have started to buy Relic Shield late in the game, so that when you're pushing, you can still generate gold to stay even, while being in the right position. It's especially useful against super minions that you can execute to fast push a wave to get to an important objective, and you'll also get the wards from the item for extra late game vision, which helps Soraka stay safe. For a special mid lane build, MinePro starts door entering every game. Get their early cheater recall base for Dark Seal and boots. First item, Ionian boots for summoner spell cooldown reduction. Your mythic item will always be Moonstone, there is no better item for Soraka. This item stacks her healing and shielding power to get 35% extra healing in any normal fight, making your ult heal for stupid amounts. Next, MinePro often buys Majaya's Soul Stealer. In his opinion, even mid lane Soraka should not be dying, so if you're ever near the 10 stacks on Dark Seal, you can upgrade to get this legendary item for the Moonstone passive, and a ton of very cheap AP. After that, you can buy situational items. Staff of Flowing Water for AP or cooldown reliant champions, Ardent Censer instead if you have auto-attacking champions on your team, or even Mikhail's against CC for even more denial in fights. His runes are very important. Aery for the repeated poke in lane with auto attacks, mana flow to stack up, and cooldown reduction. His secondaries he swaps around. Font of Life if he's building Ardent with auto attackers, as they get the Ardent buff from this rune. Otherwise, with no auto attackers, conditioning is better for survivability when catching waves in side lanes, and also attack speed to make CSing in lane a lot easier. MinePro has a Twitch stream which I'll link below, as well as today's sponsor, so please check them both out. By the way, we are so close to 100,000 subscribers, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching.